Hey friends, I'm Ash.
I'm Elle.
We are Lovey Cosplay.
And this is Shenanigans Cosplayer Say. We literally just returned last night from Colossalcon North.
Yes, we did.
I'm tired.
Also that.
My body hurts. Ouch. My back.
That's because you're the cosplayer who is too old for this.
I am the cosplayer who is too old for this. I think that's pretty accurate at this point.
Yeah. Super duper packed weekend, but super fun.
We did this to ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, I was talking about it last night and my partner's like, okay, but you did this to yourself. And I said, I know. I'm not complaining about it. I am an adult and I recognize that decisions were made. Like, I'm just stating that I'm tired and my body hurts.
We need to make slightly better decisions next year and not do certain things probably to manage our capacity a little
You mean
bit
we
better.
should not run nonstop from 3 p.m. until like 2:30 a.m. and then again 3 p.m. until 1:30 a.m. the following?
Yes.
You're no fun.
I mean, it means we're probably going to have to skip one of our favorite things from this year, but I think for our sanity and the fact that we do everything in 2 days, that's probably what's going to have to happen.
It's okay. I have time to work on her, guys. Like, don't worry.
No, we're not. We can't do all of them again. It's too much.
All right. Speaking of all those things that we did, let's get into it.
All right. Well, on Friday, we started out with Neurospicy. So we were supposed to do Neurospicy last year, and it got canceled due to our time getting allocated elsewhere. So we decided to make sure that we brought that back this year. And what that is it's basically a kind of generalized panel about neurodiversity. So what I do is I put up like a whole list of topics, and then I let the audience pick what they want us to talk about rather than me just being up there rattling away about neurodiversity.
You mean you don't want to give them death by PowerPoint?
No, I do think I am going to narrow the list down a bit. I think it's actually too many things. So I think I'm going to pull some things off of it for next time. But it was very well received. Got a lot of amazing questions during the panel. I do have some emails I also have to answer because we had a panel immediately following this one too. So I was not able to like hang out kind of like I was after Kitsune and answer like additional questions. But we are finding that Wisconsin's a big fan of this type of content. So we'll see what we can bring you next year. We might just bring this one back again since it's a nice generalized panel. So it kind of can incorporate the interests of a lot of different people, which is nice. But it's always great to see the light bulbs go off for people, and then you just kind of watch the audience start to relax and feel just like I am in a space where I finally feel like I'm being accepted and I understand what's happening in my brain.
Yeah, they feel validated, and especially as you go through the panel, and I've noticed this other times we've run mental health panels too, like the community that builds within the room during that such a small period of time where people like rally around each other is really heartwarming.
Yeah, it's just really nice to see, and we had some really lovely commentary. We had like just the sweetest person come up and just be like, I just finally got diagnosed with autism, and this has been so great to hear other people talk about these things. And like, that's what I want. I want a safe space for the neurodiverse population to be able to come together, ask the questions they want to ask of a fellow neurodivergent person, but also of a person who has the training as well to answer some of these questions. And I know that sometimes it's hard because none of the questions have like definitive answers either, because science is science, and I wish there was an if A then B for most things, but there's not. But if you find that you have any additional questions that popped up for you, feel free to email or DM us, and I can either try to answer them myself or get you to the information so that you can kind of have like a space to look. I'm also going to try to make like a highlight or something of some of my favorite resources that I'll be able to direct people to so that they can access some of the things I talk about during the panel, because I know that that can be kind of hard, especially since we're, because you typically walk in and your first 5 minutes are eaten up with setup, and then you need to stop early so the next panel can set up. So typically you only end up with maybe like 45 minutes, and it's not enough time for the topic. We found that Kitsune went 30 minutes over in the hallway. This one could have easily kept going. But at the same time, I don't want to block 2 hours out for it on the schedule either. So I'm hoping that maybe putting some resources in easily accessible places will help balance some of that out too. So if you want to see more of our mental health content at Colossalcon, just let us know. I am also looking at bringing some of these to some of the Chicago conventions as well, so possibly Anime Central, so stay tuned. But it went really well. Yeah, like Ash said, I just love being able to create that sense of community for people that may have never had that before. And so I'm also kind of playing in my brain of like maybe some other panels that might be similar to that, but maybe more like social instead, more like mixer kind of situation.
Well, and I know that I've got a lot of activities that I've done for people too, along that same spectrum with a lot of the topics that we've talked about, dealing with emotional regulation and problem solving. That would be great in a group setting like that too. So if you're interested,
so we might mix a couple of those in just to let people try a couple things inside this type of panel. Consider doing like an LGBTQ kind of mixer situation. So we'll kind of see as we go. But if you have anything you want to see us do, just shoot us an email, shoot us a DM, let us know. Because we're prepping our programming package for 2025 right now. So then after this, in the exact same room, we did our meet and greet with the burlesque show. So that was Nerds in Heat with Betsy Bo Peep. And Betsy's a longtime friend of ours. So it was wonderful to be able to be a part of one of her shows again.
Yes.
But we will talk a lot more about Nerds in Heat later on
in a few minutes. Yeah.
A few minutes. But then we did
Chaos. So last year we had a conversation with several department heads, and we had been invited if we wanted to participate, just kind of like officially but unofficially in character, just to be able to play, because that's kind of the things that we like to do, and we never got to do it back when we were regular attendees at Prime. For those of you that are not familiar, we talked about it a little bit in, I believe, the East episode, but the in-character cosplay contest is a contest where cosplayers compete to see who can portray their character the best over the course of 3 rounds. And craftsmanship doesn't matter. The actual rules of the contest don't really matter. It's really just watch your language and entertain the audience is like the entire goal of the show, more or less. So it is an improv contest, and you don't even necessarily have to be good at improving your actual character as long as the audience is having fun.
Yeah, it's really all about the audience's reaction to whatever it is that you're doing.
So we actually ended up doing the improv contest as the MCs for the improv contest. So we were Stripper Vash and Volts, Zach and Jim for improv. So we show up and we're in like the same outfits that they are.
We bought the exact same sparkle suits that they own.
We took awkward family photos, which was amazing.
We did take awkward family photos. Our goal was basically just to progressively break them throughout this entire show with things they never expected to have us pull out, because the problem is Zach in particular was not prepared for what would happen when we had this much time, because we don't do anything halfway. So they just figured we were going to show up in the sparkle suits and that was going to be about it. But they forget how long we have known both of them. and seen them on stage for about 20 years. So
easily 20 years. So
easily.
It's back when we were teenagers running around Anime Central, like, also them.
So we basically, like, played the bit where we were supposed to be the hosts. And so, like, we come in. The first round, you're just supposed to do whatever 30-second thing you have planned. So we come in and verbatim do their intro for a character. Which then I walk off stage and Zach looks at me and he's like, you just did that word for word. And I'm like, yep. And he's like, oh, God, I'm scared.
Excellent.
And I just look at him and I'm just wait, there's more. And he's like, oh, God.
Yeah, we had costume changes.
We had multiple costume changes.
Yep.
So the second round is an interview. So, of course, I take the cards and the microphone from Zach and I interview Zach. And it had to be Zach because we had to match.
Yes, the audience writes questions on cards and then they just pull a card and then ask the question like this is a serious talk show.
Jim could not make it for the second round. So we had Banner Jim, which is in reference to one of the years at Prime when Jim was a cardboard cutout.
Yes.
So we now have a banner of Jim that we can do with as we see fit.
There's plans, I promise.
There's lots of plans for Banner Jim. Banner Jim will be back. Banner Jim was also making random appearances once it came on. So the crowning achievement, obviously, was sneaking up behind Zach and having him turn around and me dressed as Vash the Stampede. So if you're not familiar with Stripper Vash and the tale of Stripper Vash, we highly recommend you just go on YouTube and put Stripper Vash in and you're going to find all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, Zach is best known for taking his clothes off dressed as Vash the Stampede from Trigun.
If you would like a short and condensed version, you can check out the replay of the live stream from the main cosplay contest from Colossalcon North this weekend.
That was our gift to tech.
Yeah. I apologize, but I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry. So we were dressed as Wolfwood and Vash for the last part. And in the last part, what you're supposed to do is you're given a line that you have to include in your performance, either at the beginning or the end, with a audience member. And we're like, we're not going to do that. We concluded our audience member, but we're like, we just looked at her and we're like, we have a plan.
I mean, I did say the line before he took my microphone away, so
you
technically
did say the line. We did technically play the game correctly, but what we did, because there are playlists of every skit these two have done together on YouTube, it took me about 15 minutes to grab a handful of lines from all their old skits, put them on cards, and put them in a bag. And so we just start pulling cards out of this bag with lines from all their old skits. Until they came up on stage and took them away from us.
But we all had fun. It was good. And we got permission to do it before we did it. I mean, we didn't tell them what we were doing.
No, so as a fellow, contest runner show producer, I asked Zach ahead of time if this was okay. Like, he didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but I was like, we want to do in character as you and Jim. Is that okay? Because I didn't want to do something that would jeopardize his show. Because it's not funny when you mess with people and you screw up their show. It's funny when it's like, when you have the permission and you know that the person's going to respect the show itself. So everything we did went very well with the show that they were doing. So we didn't do anything that was like going to be super disruptful to how their show works. Anything like that. The lovely cosplay coordinator, Hallie, also surprised us during the show with a little award.
Yes. So
because we kept telling them to eliminate us and then they didn't. And we found out later that the judges wouldn't let them. They were like, you can't. You can't eliminate them. You have to leave them on stage.
Well, so we were going to come on stage anyway.
We would have gone on stage regardless. We would have just gone up there afterward, and
that
just
was
done whatever we
okay.
wanted.
But apparently they just really enjoyed us and didn't want us to get eliminated.
No, they didn't want us eliminated. So we won the GOAT award, and it is literally like a goat face.
It's a goat with a crown on its
award.
head.
We'll post pictures.
Yeah.
But they used the phonetic spelling of Zach and Jim that we had to put on the form on the award.
So it's like Z-A-E-K. Yeah.
And then Jim as in like the place you go.
The place you go. Yes.
Because I couldn't find like a phonetic spelling for it, so I put Jim.
I like it. Shout out to the people that were actually playing. So second place went to, because they didn't have a full cast like they normally get because they didn't have that many submissions. Second place went to Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. And first place to Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls. And you're only ever referred to as your character name. That is you. You were that person for the entirety of the contest.
It was delightful. I mean, we would be too overscheduled to do this again.
Which is so unfortunate because it was so much fun.
At least at North, we would be too overscheduled to do this again. But they don't really, like, East is nice and well established, so they don't really need people who can't win things to participate. But
if you like to play on stage, you should participate in this contest
yes,
next year because
it's such a good time.
It's a time.
So much fun. But I have a feeling, given what some schedule changes that are probably going to occur next year, I think we would be way too overscheduled to, like, it would be too many things that are too intensely taxing in one day. So yeah, just too close together. Because that was rough. We only had like an hour in between each thing we had to do. So as much as like this is fun, there are shows that we are more heavily involved in that would need to take precedence over us having fun. So we successfully were Zach and Jim. We continued to be Zach and Jim, by the way. So this didn't end at the in-character contest.
It was a whole weekend of trolling, let's be honest.
Because we went up to Zach and we went, "You have to come to the burlesque show." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "You have to come to the burlesque show." And at this point, he knows I have a Vash jacket. And Jim's like, "We're going to the burlesque show." So Jim's like, "I'm going. We're doing this." And Zach's like, I'm like, "Dude, you gotta go. You gotta go to the burlesque show, dude. You have to go. You can't not go. That's not an option." After many, many years of not, a burlesque show has returned to Colossalcon. Nerds in Heat, as we mentioned before, was produced by our lovely friend Betsy Bo Peep, who has been doing burlesque for an extended period of time.
This was the 54th show that Betsy has produced.
Yes, Betsy is a very capable and amazing producer who always picks really unique and fun and interesting acts. And there definitely was a large variety that you got to experience during this show. Who did we have this year for Betsy's show?
You may ask. So this show featured Dottie Minerva as both Linda Belcher from Bob's Burgers and Shy Guy from the Super Mario Brothers franchise. Miss Manhattan as Furby. Yes, you heard that right.
You heard that correctly.
You heard that correctly.
There is a burlesque routine as a Furby.
And the DC Comics The Penguin. Most people are familiar with Penguin from Batman. Greta Garboff as Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop and Grell from Black Butler.
My boyfriend.
Your boy, yes.
There's a very large cardboard cutout involved with Greta's performance that used to grace our presence back in the day with Betsy's previous troupe. So I was very excited to see Sebastian back on stage.
Also featured Celtic Honey as Chitara from the Thundercats. Badger Wildwood as the Huntress from Dead by Daylight. Drop Dead Red as the Martian Girl from Mars Attacks. Oh my god, that movie. With additional assistance provided by Darling Starling, myself, and Laughing Rat Cosplay. Elle was one of the co-hosts, and we'll get there in a minute to talk about the rest of that shenanigans. And then co-hosted by co-hosted and produced by Betsy Bo Peep, who also performed as the Deadpool variant Lady Pool, and Magikarp and Gyarados from Pokemon.
And obviously, we love Magikarp. The PG-13 version was in the Variety Show last year. So
you want to talk about the rest of those shenanigans?
So I'm pretty sure we came up with this idea after East.
Yes.
And we were like, what would be really funny is if we did the 4-foot rule skit at the burlesque show. Because that is the skit that brought us Stripper Vash 20 years ago. So it is the 20-year anniversary of the 4-foot rule skit. And I was like, yes, that's funny, but one cannot just throw off a Vash coat in a burlesque show. So I burlesque removed a Vash coat to Zach's theme song, Careless Whisper. I'm being told it was hysterical, but I have not seen it, so I have no idea.
If you would like the original throwback, you can look up prop rules on either YouTube or American Cosplay Paradise, and there's video available.
There is video available of the original skit. There is not video available of mine.
I mean, there might be at some point.
Well, I mean,
we don't know.
Colossalcon has video. You don't typically post burlesque shows after they happen. That's just not... It's kind of supposed to be an in-the-moment situation, although I'm hearing that there's photos of me floating around on people's stories, so I have not seen them. I personally don't care, but just FYI for people new to burlesque shows, it's kind of considered in poor taste to take photos and video during a burlesque show because of the kind of intimate nature of the show. Mm-hmm. So although I'm in a binder and shorts, I don't care. It's kind of considered in poor taste. But we're going to kind of work on helping the community kind of understand some of those, that etiquette.
Yeah, those nuances.
Next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're not used to, the burlesque community, you wouldn't know. You would kind of treat it like any other cosplay-related thing. And it's the costumes are really cool. So you're just yeah, this is cool, But then you forget that it's oh, yeah, someone's standing up there in a G-string and pasties, and maybe I shouldn't post that, So... yeah, so it's we'll work on that etiquette a little bit. So Zach did see it. We did the skit verbatim. So I say the first line, and you just hear really loudly in the back of the room, "This is bullshit."
There were some other strong letters that were said
there are also.
Other
strong words that I will not say on here said throughout this process. But Zach got to get me back. So on Thursday, I mentioned that I have to change costumes at the end, and I was going to let Tech pick a song for me, and Zach went, "No, I'm going to pick a song for you." And I went, "All right, that's fair, because I'm doing things
Turnabout's fair play.
All weekend, so that's totally fair. I will let you pick a song." He had a whole panel of people to try to figure out what song he was going to make me do at the end of the burlesque show. So please keep in mind, I am not a trained burlesque performer, at all. I've apparently picked up skills from being around really highly talented people for an extended period of time, and working with Betsy for so long, and Betsy's a very, very talented performer. I've apparently picked up a few things because I'm being told it wasn't terrible. But Zach picked Angel by Sarah McLachlan for me to remove my costume to. Oh, Zach.
Yep.
And at first I thought, well, he could have done worse. And then I remembered what commercial that song goes with. So for those of you that may not be familiar, that song goes with the ASPCA commercial with the sad animals.
Yeah. If you were sitting here thinking, man, I feel like I've heard that song before, that's probably where you heard it. Because if you have cable television, you've probably seen the really depressing photos and videos of animals that look like they're half dead and they're wanting all of your money on a monthly basis. So
you may more recognize the song as "In the Arms of an Angel."
And now you have a theme song. Special shout out to Tech anyway, because They're just great people, and I love working with them.
We love tech.
Yeah, they're always a delight.
I don't know what present we're bringing them next year, but we'll bring them something. I don't know if we can beat what we gave them this year.
Again, I would apologize, but I'm not sorry.
It was pretty great. I'm not sorry about it. So I'm not going to apologize for giving them a compilation of Stripper Vash to Careless Whisper. The internet is forever, people.
Yes. So if we tell you, remember, be mindful when you post things on the internet because the internet is forever. This is a perfect example because even though the internet wasn't even necessarily super popular by comparison to today's standards, you know, for this type of thing back then, it still exists.
Right.
And it's still out there, readily available for literally anyone.
So, of course, now the boys are like, we're going to get you back. But I'm like, we don't have anything nearly as good
and
as
then they
Stripper
started
Bash.
doing impressions in the hallway, and it was hysterical. I can't.
Well, I kind of forgot we have almost 100 episodes of a podcast. So them and our favorite person
Steve
in the world,
is our
Steve,
handler.
because Steve kept going, oh, but what about this? Oh, but what? Because Steve listens to the podcast. So it's like, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this?
Steve takes
And
very
it's
good
like,
care
oh,
of
God.
us. Always giving a shout out to Steve. By the end of the weekend, we were singing All You Need Is Steve.
You need is
da,
Steve.
da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da. All you need is Steve. Steve. Steve is
Yep.
all we need. It's true. We sang that for the con chair. She was very entertained.
And the guest relations head was also there.
We love Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And the guest relations head. Yes, Steve was giving them ideas, and I was like, stop it. You're going to give them ideas. But we don't have a show that they can just come and like interrupt.
I mean, we do. But
we're usually really tight on time in the variety show. Well, they could drop by the comedy show and cause
it's
chaos,
okay.
I guess.
It'll be fine.
It's fine.
It's
It's
all
all
in
in
good
it's all in
fun.
good fun. I mean, but we don't have
Nothing
anything nearly
is
as good as Stripper Vash.
Bash.
So there's just nothing as good as Stripper Vash. Like, but I'm glad that Zach was happy that he got to say Twink Death on stage. So we gave him that
wasn't
gift.
until the next day, though. So
No, but
speaking of the next day, so we started again. Like, we got up and we went to the hot tub in the morning after we ate breakfast and just, you know, let ourselves relax a little bit. I was a little disappointed because it wasn't really hot.
They're trying to keep the drunky
It was
drunk
like 10
safe.
o'clock in the
So
morning.
hot
Why
tub
is the hot
wasn't
tub not
hot.
warm?
I know. It can at least be warm.
I take
from like
showers
10
that
to
are hotter
1
than
or
that. Like on a.
something.
My toddler takes showers that are hotter than that hot tub was. It was not warm.
I mean, it was better than nothing, but it was not.
If our bathtub was big enough for the three of us to fit in it, I would have said we should have just soaked in the bath in our swimsuits. Because then we could have had hot water.
We did not have that problem at
That had
East, so
Real hot tub temperatures.
like the hot tubs were at least hot in the morning at East. I do think they cooled them off towards the end of the day, but like, I get it. You want to keep the drunky drunk safe, but like, we want the hot tub because we're old and our body
Ouch,
hurts.
my back.
So, ouch.
So we
back.
did bring Cosnanigans back this year, which is our variety show, giving some people some alternatives. We had a great time. We were in the afternoon on main stage, which is awesome. Yes, it was
On Saturday.
It was lovely, and we had a great cast, and the show was phenomenal. We had the lovely Dew Feathers from Minnesota, who came and did flow art as both Flareon from Pokemon and Korok from The Legend of Zelda. The Ohio-based cosplay group Kazohana as Lydia Dietz, Barbara Maitland, Adam Maitland, and Beetlejuice from Beetlejuice the Musical. So they did like a combination of live singing and like a musical theater skit, and that was delightful. But I love me some Beetlejuice the Musical too, so...
Well, and one of the great things about the variety show is you're not limited to 2.5 minutes. So you can do some longer form performance without having to like feel like you smash everything to 2.5 minutes. Mad Cal as Q Wrong from Heaven's Official Blessing, which they did a different style of flow from Dew Feathers. So they did more of like acrobatics, Poi.
Oh my
and
God, Dragon
Dragon
Poi.
Poi. The Dragon Poi was so cool. It lit up.
It was really cool.
Like,
and I love
Dew
Dew Feathers
really
as an artist. Like we've watched her perform for years. I'd never personally seen Medcal perform before, and I was like, Dragon Poi.
Dew Feathers does more of a combination of fans and belly dancing, which is really fun and mesmerizing to watch. So, because the point of a variety show is for everything to be drastically different. I don't want anything to be the same because variety is kind of the point of a variety show. So even if you have people who fit into a similar genre, they are going to be drastically different from each other. We had Kiraoke Cosplay, who the Wisconsinites might remember, who used to compete quite frequently up until about 2020. They brought us their Light Yagami parody from Cabaret, which is a wild time and not something you ever expect. Nope. We had Takoyaki Entertainment. They are an improv group from Wisconsin. They came in and did scenes from a hat.
We had Siren Cosplay as Lan Wonji from the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, who did a lovely song cover.
So Siren was our apprentice. So in each show, I take one person who doesn't have a lot of professional experience or semi-professional experience. They may have not done things on stage directly before. Maybe they've done some like high school theater or something like that, but they don't have like an extensive background, but there's just some kind of spark there that makes me go, I want to give you some time on stage. Because if someone hadn't taken a chance on us forever ago, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. Siren was our apprentice for this round of the show. And so that also gives you access to feedback before the show if you want it, from us as well. So we will continue to keep a spot open for an apprentice because I just think that it's important to give other people the opportunity that we've been able to have. They did a wonderful job. You don't get altos very often, so it was really cool to get someone singing in that lower range. Since we get a lot of sopranos, but I very rarely get like an alto, and they did a fantastic job. I believe that was their first time singing live on stage.
I would not have guessed that.
So, nope, me neither. Oh, Laughing Rat. Don't threaten me, Laughing Rat, because then you're going to have to do your threat. So, Laughing Rat was threatening, if people didn't sign up for the variety show, that she was going to recite Shakespeare as Judy Funny from Doug. And I said, psych, I want that. Please do it. And she did. And it was great.
Yes.
Snaps.
Yes.
Have to give her snaps. It was hysterical. But so that is some of the kind of things that I want to see. I want people to go left field. Like, I want you to pull something obscure out and send it to me. And it was fantastic. But. As someone who has worked in the entertainment business for a long time, and as someone who was involved in casting, there are certain musicals that people like to attempt to send in that are very, very hard to sing. Gravity from Wicked is one. Phantom of the Opera gets submitted to me constantly. 90% of the time, I will flat out refuse to take Phantom of the Opera because it requires a very, very specific voice for Christine to be able to manage the songs. They are extremely difficult songs. There is one person I will let do Phantom of the Opera, and that is Scapegoat.
Goosebumps.
You may remember Scapegoat from last year. They were my singer last year. They've also won numerous performance awards at Wisconsin cosplay contests. They brought their friend Shane Michael with, and they did The Phantom of the Opera. And it was amazing. She hit all the notes. They killed it. No one was going on after that.
It was a beautiful show ending.
I'm very glad that I changed the lineup and went, no, you go last. You have to go last. I cannot have you go first. I can't. I have to have you go last. No one's going to want to go on after this happens. She hit every single note in that song.
And as a treat for all of you, Colossalcon actually did the recording this time, so it's not like our iPad version.
They did.
So at the time that...
Yes. Foxden also recorded.
So at the time that we're recording this, it is currently... The live stream is still listed under the Twitch page for Colossalcon. By the time this episode airs, they should have pulled it down and it should be uploaded to YouTube. So we'll be sure to include links when we have them for people that want to watch and just see kind of what to expect. Do you want to talk about next year?
I do want to talk about next year. So I have had some questions about the show in general, and I do understand that the show is still like a new concept for a convention. People are very familiar with burlesque or only drag, but not something that's kind of everything in between or a combination of those things and everything in between. So I am going to post a new frequently asked questions, which will also be included on the application for next year so that people can get more of an idea of other options for the show. Because I will tell you right now, although I got quite a few applications and I very much appreciate everyone who applied, it was about 75 to 80% singing. And it is a variety show. I cannot take all singers. So it benefits you if you find something else that isn't singing, unless you are an extremely strong singer or if you have something like if you're talking, like something like that. But if your performance is you standing there singing, I'm probably not going to take you. So just, unless you're an extraordinarily strong singer, I need to see some acting. I need to see some performance because you're competing against 75 to 80% of my submissions directly for, 5 to 8 spots. And I am probably taking less people than I have in the past for next year. So just to tighten the show up a little bit because we were pretty close to going over time. Keep that in mind. I am going to post a wish list with the frequently asked questions to give people some ideas of some other things they could do outside of singing. Just to, kind of widen it up a little bit. See what we can... Maybe it'll jog some creativity for people to see. Because it's not that anyone who sent anything was bad. It's just I only have so many spots and I can't have all singing. And you're allowed to submit more than one act. So you could submit a singing act and then you could submit something else. And I could just choose what thing you're going to do. So it's like if you really want to submit a singing act, you can. But you could also submit something else too. And increase your chances of possibly getting in the show.
And if you have any additional questions, feel free to email us or send a DM, and we can always add that to the FAQ that Elle's going to put together.
I have also heard all of your feedback already about how you don't want it so close to the cosplay contest, so I am going to talk to Colossalcon about seeing if we can get that moved. I was also concerned about it being so incredibly close to the cosplay contest, because by the time our show ends, people need to be in line to, see it. And with what Colossalcon has planned for their cosplay contest next year, I definitely don't want this anywhere near it because I'm pretty sure no one's going to come because they're all going to want to go watch.
Well, and it was already difficult because of when it was for people that wanted to perform in both the cosplay contest and our show to be able to do both, and we were able to accommodate a couple of people, but just if we could relieve that so that you don't have to worry about not being able to see it or not being able to participate in both the cosplay contest and the variety show, we're going to do what we can to kind of fix that.
Because I do also think there would be a large crossover of audience of people who want to enter the contest and people who would want to watch the show. So I'm going to see if we can get it scooted away, possibly Friday. That is also why I'm saying we can't do in character anymore, because I can't do 3 shows on a Friday. That's insane, because the burlesque show's not Friday. Shit, Cosplayer Say it's Friday. So it's just too many. It's too much. Like, my voice can't manage that. But we have heard that feedback, so we will see what we can do. They did make events 2 a lot bigger, so now we also could be in 1 or 2, which also helps a lot with scheduling. Does. So, because the stage is an actual stage now in events 2, because it wasn't the audience size that was the problem, was the fact that events 2 stage used to be like itsy bitsy, and I wouldn't be able to get more than 2 people on the stage at a time. So for those of you
that were at Colossalcon North last year and this year, the size of stage that was in events 3 this year is what was in events 2 last year, which would have been too small for some of the performances that we had planned for the variety show, which is why we wanted to be in E1.
Because I do like to have at least one group of like 4 or 5, and they just won't fit.
Yeah, it's too snug, especially depending on what they're doing.
Yeah. But now 2 is so much bigger that we could essentially be in 2 or 1 and it wouldn't matter as far as North is concerned. We do have plans to bring it back to East for those of you that also go there. We have also heard your feedback for that one. And we are going to see if we can do it later on Thursday to accommodate people coming from after work. Because that was the biggest feedback we got from both people that wanted to apply and people that wanted to see it, was it was too early. So I do think it's still a good event for Thursday, with Thursday still building up as a con day. We will work with them on that. For all we know, they're making that events 2 bigger too. So we might have 2 options at East as well. But I really like having the screen in E1 for the variety show, because it's really fun to have the background screen. So we'll see what happens. But thank you to everyone who came to see the show. Thank you to everyone who is in the show. But you will be able to watch it on YouTube, either through Colossalcon or through Foxden Media. All right. What else did we do? Because this keeps going. We were the intermission show for the Masquerade.
So for those of you that have not gone to a Colossalcon cosplay contest before, when Colossalcon runs it, obviously things were a little bit different under old leadership because they ran things the way that they do at other conventions. But at every other Colossalcon, the contest itself is very efficient. So you don't need a ton of time for deliberations, because what they do is they put all of the performances first, and then they dismiss the performance judges to be able to deliberate while the walk-ons are going across the stage. So all the performances go first. The walk-ons have already been judged for craftsmanship and the winners selected before they do their stage walk. And then they walk the walk-ons through, and then they will have their intermission, or they call it their halftime show. So it doesn't need to be long, and ideally it needs to be very flexible so that as soon as judges are back, we can get to the important part of the contest. So the awards ceremony, because you're not there to see intermission, you're there to see cosplay. And intermission is just supposed to kind of like tide you over until the rest of the cosplay contest can be presented to you.
I mean, I personally like
I love it. It's very efficient. I love it as both a competitor and a showrunner. And as long as you know that's what you're expecting going in, then it's great. Anyway, so we show up to intermission in our Zach and Jim jacket. Necessary. It was necessary. But as ourselves, not as Zach and Jim this time. But we show up and we got to play a game with the audience, which was a lot of fun.
So we did a sound story again, which we've done those before, where every time I say a certain word, then a person is assigned to a sound effect or a phrase that they must say. So this one took place at a convention. The audience decided it was a Shrek convention. And so then the audience's response when I said the crowd was, "Get out of my swamp." We made Zach and Jim play with us. Zach got to be the cosplayer who is too old for this. So his response was, "Ouch, my back." And Jim played the overly excited child, and so every time I said overly excited child, he had to yell.
And like, typically he jumped around and ran around the stage until he got tired.
They definitely started getting tired towards the end of it. You could just see the energy level going. Don't worry, guys. We won't make you play with us for intermission next time.
We have other plans.
We have other plans. What is really great about Colossalcon's intermission, though, is we don't have to plan like a 30 to 40 minute thing. It's like 10 to 15 minutes max, and you're good. Like, you're done. And I mean, we always have back pocket things in case something goes wrong. But ultimately, like, you don't need more than 10 to 15 minutes, which is great, because as a competitor, I never liked when you had like 30 plus minute intermissions. It's just such a long time to wait. And it's like everything is prejudged. Why are we discussing awards now?
Colossalcon does all of their judging before the show, so they only have to deliberate performance, which is great.
Well, and so, but how they are able to do such a short intermission, like Ash mentioned, is the judges are dismissed during the walk-ons. So they have all the time it takes to do the walk-ons, plus that 10 to 15 minutes for intermission. And sometimes Colossalcon doesn't even need intermission. Like, we were prepared to be told we don't need you to do anything, because they were also getting close on time. So, like, we were totally prepared for them to be like, nope, you're good. We're just going to go right in. And if you accept an intermission, like, performance gig, you have to be prepared for that to possibly happen. Because it's more important to get the judges back on stage and get the awards announced than it is for you to do your 10 to 15
doing intermission is kind of like being an MC. The show is not about you. You are there for the flow of the show and entertaining the audience, but the show is about the contestants. They are the VIP.
So we were fully prepared to just not do it if they didn't need it. But we were also fully prepared to go into a second thing if they did need it, which they almost did, and then they didn't need it. So
it did.
But yes, we have more chaos that we can offer to Colossalcon for next year.
I know that they had some there was some questions that people had been asking us about judges, so I went ahead and wrote them down for you, so at least after the fact, if you did not see I was told they were posted somewhere, but I personally didn't see it.
Something got mixed up with that. We're not sure what happened. I mean, we're not involved, so we don't know what happened, but
your judges that they brought in were Sora's Style, Cyril Khan, who also are very active in their communities in the Carolinas and Texas, and they have worked with Colossalcon and their adjacent conventions before, doing things like judging. And then our two Best in Show winners for craftsmanship from last year, which was Nexus Nightmare Cosplay and Cradle of Arms. They were your other craftsmanship judges as well. So they brought back the gift cards for placement awards from Purple Plum and Blick, which is awesome. They brought back cash for Best Masters and Best in Show, and they still have that split division where it's you can perform in craftsmanship, you can perform in performance, or both, and you're eligible for pricing in both.
It is back up to big money, big prizes, people. $1,000.
And they did go ahead, and it is now public knowledge because it's on the internet. They are bringing next year what they're calling the Colossalcon Circuit. And official rules should have gone up before this posted, so they're estimating December 1st. They will have all of the rules and pricing listed on the internet, so we can go ahead and throw a link for you guys if you have not seen that yet. But they did play a short advertisement for this during the masquerade before we did our show, and that involves one separate prize called the Colossalcon Cosplay Circuit finalist, who will win a cash prize of $1,000, a $500 travel stipend, reserved booking double queen sofa room for Colossalcon Prime in 2026, VIP badging for 2026 Colossalcon Prime, and the ability to compete for the Colossalcon Cosplay Circuit Champion, which will have a grand prize of $2,500. And so that's all for Prime 2026.
I will talk to the masterminds behind the circuit to see if maybe we can have them on for a little mini to talk a little bit about what this process is going to look like.
'Cause we knew before you did. Ha ha.
Yeah, we've known about this for actually quite a while. But we kind of had to, it was like, they posted about it like a few months ago at one point, but didn't really give any info about it. But we've known how this was going to work for quite a while. So we're excited to see it. We're sad we can't compete in it, but we're excited to see it exists. We will see if we can maybe have them hop on and talk a little bit more about what this is going to look like. And we did do Shit Cosplayer Say. I forgot to record it.
Well,
R.I.P.
Normally we don't, because again, that's one of those things that we think is best experienced in the moment. However, we are introducing a new show format. So Colossalcon North was the last time that we were doing our old format for the show. So we will be changing some stuff up for next year, which is exciting. So
we're hoping the new format is going to appeal to non-cosplayers a little bit more as well. We know the name throws things off a bit, because if you've gone to the show, it's like there's a sliver about cosplay, and that's about it. Like, it's really about convention going and fandom.
You mean like the podcast?
And all of that. It's called Shit Cosplayers Say because we're cosplayers and we say shit. Like, it's not because it's only about cosplay. So we're hoping by throwing something in that's appealing to a larger audience, that will bring more people into the show. I mean, we still had a pretty decent audience in that room, but we'd like to see if we can wrangle in some more people by pulling in something that's a little bit more recognizable to a larger audience. But you'll find out what that looks like by East. So, because that will likely be the first time we use the new format. Because we aren't really doing any other cons.
We're doing some for funsies, and we've talked about throwing some programming at Chicago, but nothing concrete at the moment. So
no, I have too much going on to be able to commit to too many convention guesting options. So
that's the plan. So yeah, and we're tired.
We are tired. I am so tired. I'm very glad I didn't have to go to work today because I'm exhausted.
That was North. We are still on our post-con high, and we are still really, really tired from the weekend. But we wanted to go ahead and get this recorded for you guys because obviously, like, holidays are coming up and it's going to get cuckoo bananas around here. But we did want to make sure that we got this out for you while it was still fresh in our minds and fresh experiences for all of us. Yes. But yeah, we had a great time. We got to see a lot of people we haven't seen in a while, and hopefully that includes you next year, listener of ours. And again, I'm Ash.
I'm Elle.
We are Lavi Cosplay.
And this is Shenanigans Cosplayer Say. You've been listening to Shenanigans Cosplayers Say, produced by LVC Productions. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube at Lavi Cosplay. Our podcast Instagram is Podcast SCS. Our website is lavicosplay.com. Have a fun, crazy con or cosplay-related story, absurd cosplay question, or just something in general to share with us? Email us at podcastscs@gmail.com or DM us at podcastscs or Lavi Cosplay on Instagram. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening, and remember, just because you can doesn't mean you should.